well, I'm not going to lie, I would rather be outside hiving these packages, but I can't. Weather's not cooperating, so you got to do what you can do. So I figure, well, I'm going to feed them just 50-50 syrup. Just give them a spray on the sides. This is from a producer in Chile. The load was damaged. They arrived a couple days ago, and the load was damaged by heat. The temp loggers have the heat getting up to 46 degrees Celsius, or about 114.8, 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which is brutally high in a confined space. Bees in the packages handle temperature quite well if they have an awful lot of airflow. If they don't have airflow, the temperature will rocket up extremely fast and they will end up killing themselves. So out of the load, there were 540 on the entire shipment, and well over half of them were completely dead, completely at the bottom of the package and nothing left of them. But there were some that still look like this. I mean, they look like decent clusters, right? I mean, there's very few dead on the bottom. They look fine. From what we can tell, the queens seem to be okay. But that doesn't always tell the whole story. As many of you probably know, when a queen's temperature gets too high, even for any amount of time, and this was at about the 46 degree mark for almost an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and then on the temp log you can see a dramatic drop in temperature, which indicates the death of a lot of the bees on the load. So that's why the temperature or the heat comes down, is because they're no longer producing that temperature. But mostly what I want to actually talk about is when you have a compromised package, when you know that the producer or the shipper, pardon me, has exceeded the temperatures that a package should get to, which when we try and ship, we want them in about an 8 degree range Celsius again. So roughly 41 Fahrenheit. So that's sort of what we wanted to accomplish when they're on an aircraft and that type of thing, because they don't have the airflow, so we're trying to slow down their metabolism to keep them from using too much oxygen while they're on the plane. So it just gives them a better chance for them to actually survive with the amount of airflow that they have on an aircraft. When that is exceeded, obviously their metabolism goes through the roof. Their carbon dioxide production goes up tremendously. Carbon dioxide, one of those two. The bad stuff, that goes up through the roof. The oxygen goes down. And then you end up with bees that panic. The bees panic, they start regurgitating their feed. So you can see that on the bottom of this pallet, there's an awful lot of wet feed on here. That is from two things on this shipment. On this shipment, when the bees start regurgitating their feed, it messes up everything. It creates added work because now the bees below are getting covered in syrup, so they go into a higher level of panic. And also on top of that, when you get into a high temperature like that, the feed, which is mixed at a fairly thick consistency so that it can be fed out of the small holes at a slow pace, ends up turning into an extremely thin liquid, which now starts jetting out because of the added pressure. It starts coming out of the package, out of the containers rather rapidly, and that adds to the stress on the bees. So we end up with compromised packages, and we took about 15 of the ones that looked like this off the load, and we left the rest with customers to hopefully try and salvage as much as they can, and we'll see where it goes. A package like this, reality is it's going to take close to 2 weeks before we know whether or not these survive. We're going to put them in the package. I'll show you a couple methods of how to give your bees the best chance of making it when you know you have a compromised package. Always a good idea, ask your shipper what were the temperatures on this shipment, especially if they're by air. If they're by truck, it's the same thing, other than with trucks there's typically a lot more airflow. So that's something that allows the bees to keep them maintain their own temperature. But the problem is that when these queens get to that temperature, they lose their fertility. They can lose, in that 45 minutes to an hour at that kind of temperature, they can lose 75 to 80% of the semen that they carry in their bodies, which means that they will probably die, or at least become virtually useless to the hive. So what you'll see in a very short order is the pheromone smell from that queen isn't good, the bees in the hive recognize that the queen is compromised, and they will start making supersedure cells. So when you put your package in, you want to give it the best chance. When you do a queen check 7 days after hiving it, you're going to go and find out and see whether or not she's laying, what kind of pattern she's laying. And then once there are eggs and larvae present, you come back another 7 days later at day 14 now, and you'll find out whether or not those bees in the hive have actually started superseding or creating supersedure cells. So good idea if you get packages that are compromised, hive them as normal, but try and source queens as quickly as possible, so that on day 7 when you go check, if you find out, yeah, we've got a real problem with queens, and you can see that already by a very poor pattern, or the bees have already started superseding, or the queens have already started dying, you've got those queens then, but hold off and find out 2 weeks after whether or not that's the same thing. So that's sort of the plan. So next I'm going to go out and show you just a couple different methods with box packages. I'm sure you've probably seen, or you can if you want, there's videos on here about what we do with our most common packages, which is the Air Tacky tube package. And then also we have a cardboard box that we have used as well for creating packages that is also a very easy one to open. So I'm always about what is the easiest way to get a hive into the box in the safest way possible. So that's what we're going to show you. Just a couple different methods of setting up hives, or the types of hives to use. We'll use 6-frame nuke boxes as well as full size Langstroth boxes to do that. So yeah, what else? Give them another shot of feed. It's the good stuff, 50-50. And after a year like this, I could start using 50-50. Not sugar though. Okay, I think that'll do.